We're on the top of Tezayin Amanal. We have a big blot to do. Oizeh medaba v'zeh ba. Vayomer. So now we're talking about the how all the tragedies that befell Eov. So they were in the middle of talking, and another person came. Vayomer. Eish Elokim. A fire came from Hashem and burnt up all of your sheep and your avodim. That the Kazdim came and they took away our camels. Now another messenger came. Your children were all sitting eating by your bechar. A wind came, and a big wind came, and it knocked over the four corners of the house, and the house collapsed, and all your children were killed. Eve stood up and he ripped his clothing, and he tore out his hair. I went out Aram without any clothing from my mother's womb, and I'm going to return the Aram. Hashem Nasan, Hashem Lokach, Hashem took and Hashem gave. Yishem Hashem Mevarech. Well, he doesn't feel like him. So up till this point, he had terrible tragedies, and he still, though he doesn't feel as a euphemism, he didn't respond incorrectly to the Rebbe Shalom. He didn't say anything. It was not machar from Gadach. The Malachim all came to the Rebbe Shalom. The Rebbe Shalom said to the Satan, this is all psukim. He said, where are you coming from? I went around, I was roaming the earth. I roamed the entire earth. I didn't find anyone like Avram. Vershon promised Avram that he was going to give him the whole Eretz Yisrael. The Sultan said, at the time that Avram wanted to bury Sarah, he didn't have a place. He didn't own anything in Eretz Yisrael, even though Rosham promised him the whole Eretz Yisrael would be his, and he had nothing in it. And still, Avram was not questioning what the Rebbe Shalom's judgment. So the Satan was comparing Avram to Eov. I saw somewhere the death of happiness is comparison. This is what the Satan was trying to do. He was trying to take away the Rebbe Shalom's pleasure with Eov. As we're going to see later on, there's a shita that the Satan was trying to help Eov, was trying to help Avram. He didn't want the Rebbe Shalom to forget the godless of Avram, because that's the schus that all the Yidden get, we all live from today. In any case, to continue the narrative, Hisham to livchal avdi Eov. The Rebbe Shalom took up the challenge. He gave the challenge to the Satan. He said, turn yourself toward Eov. Ki ein kamayu ba'aretz. There's no one like him in the land. V'idenu machzik b'tum masai. And he's still doing the right thing. But and you caused me. He said to the Satan, I already caused him so much tsar. I took away all his possessions, and I killed his children. You caused me to hurt him for no reason. If not for this pasuk, this would be something that would be impossible to say. The Rebbe Shalom is describing himself like someone who was manipulated into doing something. The son manipulated. He said, "You caused me to give pain to Eov," as if the Satan has the kayach to cause the Rebbe Shalom to do something he doesn't want. But of course, these are all mashalim that the Rebbe Shalom is saying is arguing with the Satan to talk about the godless of Eov. Masisa Tana. Yored umeta ba'oilu margas noidelu shus v'noidelu shama. This is describing the Satan. The Satan has three jobs. First, he's a yored umeta. He's the Yetzer Hara that causes us to do bad. Va'oilu margas, then he goes up. He's the Satan that he goes and he advocates, he prosecutes in the against by the Rebbeinu Shalom. Neitul Rishus v'neitul Shan Neshama, and he's the executioner. He's the Malach HaMavis that goes and takes people's lives. Right? We always have the confusion. We talk about these three things. There's the Yetzer Hara and the Satan and the Malach HaMavis. But this Gemara is saying that they're all the same entity, does all three functions. Vayan HaSatan es Hashem vayomer. The Satan answered Hashem and he said, "Oh, iver bad iver. A person will exchange a limb for a limb. However, we've taken away a lot of individual things from Iyov, but we never took away his life. And he was saying, as long as you don't hurt him himself, just taking away his limbs, so to speak, or his possessions and his children, which are extraneous, that is not a true test. Ulam shlach no yodcha v'goy al atzmai al b'sarei imloy al panecha yivarcha. So he said, let's see. The Satan said, let's see if we'll touch him, you'll hurt him. If at that point he'll still remain steadfast. Hanu biyadcha, I'm placing him in your hands. Achas nafshei shemar, but just don't kill him. That I don't give you rishus to do. The Satan left Vayachas Iyov, and he hit Iyov, meaning the pasuk describes that he gave him terrible afflictions, caused him terrible pains. It was more difficult for the Satan than it was for Iyov. It's like a Eved that was told by his master, break the barrel, but save the wine that's in it. That was a very difficult task that Moshe gave to cause Iyov pain without killing him. The amount of pain that he gave him was difficult to save his life. This is what we just discussed, that we described before, that all these functions are carried out by the same entity. That's the pasuk says the Satan that was advocating, that was prosecuting Iyov, he left Hashem. It says, this is I believe in Bereshis, it says that a person is bad from the whole day. You can't touch the life of Iyov, you can't touch. So that's the Yetzer Hara. Hu malach hamaves t'chsiv achas nafshei shemar. The Moshe told the malach Satan, don't touch his life. Ilmale b'didei kaima, alma b'didei kaima. Vaistai said the Moshe not warned him not to kill him. He would have been able to do so. So you see that the Satan and the Yetzer Hara also have the ability to take life. Amar of Levi, Satan upnina l'shem shemayim niskavnu. Both the Satan in this story of Iyov and Penina. Penina was the Tzara, was the other wife of Chana, who would mock her for not having children. They were both niskaven l'shem shemayim. The Satan, how was the Satan l'shem shemayim? Kim the Chazal HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not yadaiti basar Iyov. He saw the Baruch Shalom had such high regard for Iyov. Amar chas v'shalom min shilei l'rachmanusa de Avram. He was scared that the Rebbeinu Shalom would forget the godless of Avram, and we would lose the schusim that we have from Avram. And I mean, it's hard to understand even why there would be a discussion of whether the Satan is l'shem shemayim niskavnu. The Satan doesn't have bechira. The Satan is a malach of the Rebbeinu Shalom. They don't have bechira. Obviously, everything they're doing is l'shem shemayim. But I guess we need to have it reminded of us that there's no. Rishon doesn't create an outside source that's not l'shem shemayim. I mean, we have bechira, but the heavenly bodies, the heavenly the malachim don't have such netiyas. And Pnina, how is Pnina l'shem shemayim? She enraged her tzara, meaning Chana, Gam kas, gam kas, and she made her very angry. Bavur harima, in order that she should go and be mispalel. So her whole intention was that her barren co-wife should also be mispalel and have children. Darsha Rav Acha bar Yaakov bar Poponya. Rav Acha bar Yaakov said this drasha that the Satan and Penin will Shem Shemayim. Also, Satan Nashke Lekare. The Satan came and kissed his feet in appreciation for his recognition that he was also doing L'Shem Shemayim. So now we continue. With all of this, Iyov was not chayta in his mouth. He didn't say anything that was mecharif megadif. It was just in his heart that he had machshavas keneged Rebbeinu Shalom. Amar Rava, b'svasav lechata believe echata. Rava says, although he did not say anything out loud, he harbored thoughts of charif, of being mecharif and megadif. Micah Amar, what did he say? Eretz Nasna B'yad Rasha, the land is given into the hand of the Rasha, meaning the Satan, Pneitav She'yichasa, and the faces of the Shoftim are covered over. Mihu. If not him, who? Who has caused all these? Iyov said, who caused all these tragedies? The Rebbeinu Shalom is responsible for everything that happens in the world. So Amar Rava, Bikesh Iyov lahapach ka'ara alpia. This is the expression that the Gemara used. Iyov was being kaifer. He was saying the Rebbeinu Shalom is responsible for all these terrible things that we're seeing. It's the Rebbeinu Shalom's fault. Kaviyachol. Amalei Abaya says no. He was just talking about when he said who is responsible for this. He was saying the Yetzer Hara is the one who's responsible. We have to fight the Yetzer Hara. He wasn't saying the Rebbeinu Shalom is responsible or the Rebbeinu Shalom is wrong for all the bad things that have befall man. Ketanoi, and there's a machlokes Tanoim. Eretz Nosna B'yad Rasha. This pasuk that we just quoted that the land is given into the hand of the Rasha. Iyov was literally trying to turn over the plate, meaning he was blaming the Rebbeinu Shalom. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua l'diber Iyov el klapi Satan. He was blaming the Satan and the Yetzer Hara. Zakt the Gemara, al daitach kilei ersha ve'emi yadcha matzil. He said, Iyov said about the Rebbeinu Shalom, if you wanted it, would I still be a Rasha? I wouldn't be a Rasha if that's ve'emi yadcha matzil, no one could be saved. Amar Rava because Iyov lifter it's kalayim kulei min adin. He was trying to say, the Iyov was trying to say everything is predetermined. The Rebbeinu Shalom determines everything that happens in the world, and ve'emi yadcha matzil, no one could be saved from you, and no one is a Rasha without you wanting it. And he's basically saying there's no bechira. How could there be bechira if the Rebbeinu Shalom determines everything is within his power? So he's trying to save everyone from a din, which is obviously an abdication of responsibility, because we know the Rebbeinu Shalom did give us bechira. Amar Fan Rebbeinu Shalom Barasa Shar Parsos of Stukas Barasa Chamar Parsos of Plutus. You created a shar that's kosher with split hooves, and you made a chamar without split hooves. Barasa Ganedim, Barasa Gehenim, you made Ganedim and you made Gehenim. Barasa Tzadikim, Barasa Rishayim, you created Tzadikim and the Rishayim. Mik Ma'atav al Yadcha. Who can stop you? You can do whatever you want. So how could you blame us when we do Averis? You could have made it that we shouldn't do Averis. Umaya Hadru Lechavre Iyov. What did his friends answer? Af ata tafa yira v'tigra sicha l'fnei kel barei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah. Are you also going now? Are you trying to cause people to talk against the Rebbeinu Shalom and to stop and to reduce the amount of tefillos that people do? Bar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yetzer Hara. The Rebbeinu Shalom created the Yetzer Hara. Bar Torah Tavlin. The Rebbeinu Shalom also created us the Bechira to learn Torah, and through Torah we're able to overcome the Yetzer Hara. While it's true the Rebbeinu Shalom created the Yetzer Hara, to cause us to give us to cause us to want to do Averis, but we have the ability to overcome that. Darish Rav, Ma'idchsiv, Birchas Oived, Alei Toiva. The Eve said that the bracha of the one who's lost comes to me. The Lev Almana Arnin, and the heart of an almana, of a widow, will praise me. Birchas Oived of Alei Toiva. What does that mean? Melamed Sheyeh Hayed Goizel Sadam Yisaimim Mashvicha. Eve would take a sada from Yisaimim and improve it to Machzirlan and return it to them. Aleva Almana Arnin, how did he cause Almanas to praise him? And if there was ever an Almana who didn't have a husband, have a Azol Shadi Shma Yuluya, he would associate his name with her. Also Nasvila, and people therefore would go after her to marry her. Lo Shakal Yishkal Ka'asi v'huti b'maznayim yisu yachad. There's another statement of Eos. He said the Rebbeinu Shalom has a scale. Is there a scale to measure my what he's trying to say? Is there a scale to measure the amount of Yisurim that I've taken? Do they really match the Averis that I've done? Amrav Afra Lepume De'iv, Afra Lepume De'iv. Dust, dirt should go into the mouth of Eve for saying such a thing. Ki'ilu, that the scales of the Rebbeinu Shalom are not, there's no scale that could, that things don't match up, that he's not getting what he deserves. Chavrusa Klape Shmaya. He made himself as if he's an equal to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That there's a maznayim and that he has a different cheshbon than the Rebbeinu Shalom's cheshbon, and maybe the Kaviyach the Rebbeinu Shalom's cheshbon is wrong. Lo yesh b'neinu mechiach yesh yadei al shenenu. Again, Eve said there's no one between us to decide who's going to between me and the Rebbeinu Shalom who's right. Amar Rav Afro l'puma Eve, again, dust in the mouth of Eve. How did he have the chutzpah as an eved, as a slave, to chastise his master? Bris karsi le'enai uma es boinen al psula. This is not really against the Rebbeinu Shalom. This is Eve saying that I entered into a covenant with my wife, and I'm not going to look. And now I'm going to look at a psula, at an unmarried woman. So some take this out because this wasn't really a challenge to the Rebbeinu Shalom. This was declaring his sitkas. Eve ba'achronisa. Eve wasn't so special because he just said, I don't look at another woman besides my wife. Avram afil b'dei lo yistak. And Avram, who Eve was constantly being compared to, that's what the son was testing. He didn't even look at his own wife. That at the time when she was taken by the Plishtim, by Parai, he said, now I know that my wife is beautiful. Before that, Avraham Avinu did not even recognize that his own wife was beautiful. Kala onan v'yelech, a cloud is dispersed and it goes away. Kain yoyred she'oil lo. So too, when a person goes down into the grave, he never comes up. Amar, this is a statement of Eve's. Amar Rava mikansha cover Eve b'tchias hamesim. You see that Eve was saying that death is final. There's no tchias hamesim. Again, another statement of Eve that was mechar from Megadeth. And like we said before, these are things he said to himself, not that he said out loud. Asher b'saira yushupeni v'harbe pitzechinam. They Asher b'saira yushupeni, that I think it means my hair. I'm sorry, like b'saira is a strong wind. He destroyed me with a strong wind, like we said before, that he caused the wind to come and knock down the house with his children in. v'harbe pitzechinam, and he caused me many wounds for no reason. Amarabe Iyah b'sa'ira charaf u'b'sa'ira hishivua. He was macharif. He challenged the Rebbe Shalom with the strong wind, and with the strong wind, it was answered to him. Like we just said, Amal Fan Rebbe Shalom, Shema Ruach Sa'ara, Avra Lefanecha v'Neschalef Lo, Bein Iyah La'oyev. Maybe Iyah said there was a strong wind that came, and he said to the Rebbe Shalom, Kaviyachol, as if it was possible that the Rebbe Shalom mixed up his name. His name was Iyah, and he mixed him up with the oyev, with the enemy. He said, "I'm not an enemy, and you treated me like an enemy." B'saira Shivu, and it was answered to him with a strong wind. The Rebbe answered from the wind, and he answered, prepare yourself, arm yourself. I'll ask you questions, you'll answer. This is all going to be, we're going to have a bunch of answers. The Rebbe is going to prove this a response to that which Iyov said, that maybe you mixed me up with the Oyev. You mixed up my name of Iyov with Oyev. He says, I created a lot of hairs in a person's head. And every hair has a hole that it's intended for. If there were two hairs that came out of the same hole, it would cause a person's eyes to go blind. It would be very bad if two hairs came out of the same follicle. Bein guma leguma lo nischalefli, bein iyav lo oyev nischalefli. If I could be so careful that when a person doesn't have two hairs coming out of the same hole in his head, you think I'm going to make a difference? I'm going to mistake between the two words, iyav and oyev. Mi palag l'shatach ta'ala. And the pasuk and the Rebbe Shalom continued to answer to him, who divided up the waters into their own streams. Harba tipim barasi ba'avim. I made many drops of water in the clouds. Kol tipa tipa barasi la defus b'fnei. And each tipa has its own stream that the water goes in. So that two drops don't come out of a separate source. The ground would be flooded and it wouldn't produce pears. If I don't mix up two drops of water, you think I'm going to mistake you from an enemy? My mashma the high tal listener did for see. I want to ask, how do we know that the streams that we're talking about is a lashon? The word of tala means the different streams of water. He made a ditch that was equal to 2 sasayim of feed. V'derech lachzis kailis harbe. I'm sorry. V'derech lachzis kailis. Another response of the Rebbe Shalom to Iyav's taina is that I separated the kailis. Harbe kailis barasi b'avim. I made a lot of thunderous noises in the clouds. And again, each kail has its own path. That two kailos of thunder don't come from at the same time. If two would come at the same time, would destroy the whole world. Again, if I can make that, I'm not going to mistake Oyev to Iyv. Hayadas es ledes yali sela. I know the time of the birth of the mountain goat. Chayla yalis tishmar, and the opening of the eyelids of the gazelle I can watch. Yalazu achzaris albanel. The mountain goat is very mean spirited to its children. B'shasha kairas l'led. This is the time it gives birth. Oil l'roy shahar goes to the top of the mountain. They sheep only man of a yamas, in order that its child, when she gives birth, should fall down the mountain and die. If I take an eagle that takes the newborn goat and takes it in its wings, and it places the newborn baby goat in front of the mother, and then she's merachman. If I would be a second late or early with this eagle, miyad mace, immediately the kid would die in regular and ischalef. If I get the exact moment rightly, bein Eiv la'oyev and ischalef, I'm going to mistake between Eiv and Oyev. Chayil ayolis tishmar, I watched the opening of the gazelle. Ailazu rachma tsar, the womb of this gazelle is very narrow. That is at the time that it bends over to give birth. And the mazmul darken, I bring a snake. Shemakisha beisarechem, it bites it at the womb. Misrapa v'yoldus, it opens up and it enables the gazelle to give birth. If I'll be a second later early, biyad mesa bein regular and ischalefli bein Eiv nischalefli. Again, if I can get that exactly right, I'm certainly not making a mistake between Eiv and Oyev. Eiv loy bedas yidaber v'divra loy beheskel. The Gemara says that Eiv was not fully responsible for what he said, meaning what he said in his mind, because he was under great stress. He had tremendous tsar. He lost all his family and all his children. Not the Gemara. The Gedolim used to say this after the Holocaust, that you can't judge what people said or did after the Holocaust because of this pasuk, because of this Gemara. The Gemara says that a person under such tremendous tsar can say things that he doesn't really mean. Amar Rava, mikan she'ein adam nitfis b'shas tzairoi, a person is not punished for what he says at the time of tsar. Vayishmu shloisha roya Eiv es kol haro hazois haba'olov. The three friends of Eiv heard all the bad things that befell him. Vayavayu ishmim kaimai. They each came from their place at Lifas Hatimani, or builded Hashuchi, V'tzefer HaNaami. Vayayadu yachtav lavai. They all came together, Larin loyal and Achmai, to console him. My Vayayidu yachtav. What does it mean? They gathered, Vayivadu yachtav, they gathered together. Am Rav Yehuda Marav, Melamet Shenitzu Kulan, B'shar Echad. They all came into the gate at the same time to go to Eiv. V'tana bein kol echad v'echad shlosh meish parsi. And they were all separated by a huge amount of distance. They were very far from one another. How did they know when to go? That they all came at the same time. Some say that they had a crown, that when something happened to one of them, the crown showed an indication. They had a tree. As soon as there was some withering of the tree, they knew that there was a problem and they went immediately. Amarava, Hainu Dami Inchi, I want to either have friends like Eiv had, or better to have death than not to have such wonderful friends. It says in Bereshis that people started to have children and they had daughters. When it says Ubnois Yoldu Lahem, Larav is a mashmois that daughters are what causes the increase in the world, revia, that the world increases, that they're going to have children. They caused contention and strife. As we all know, if a person does not get along properly with does not shalom bayis, then a wife can cause things to be very bad. Point to you that a daughter brings increase in the world. In the end, like we said, Eiv was not punished for what he said and what he thought. And the end, the Rebbe blessed him and gave him back. He had a new family and he got many possessions. So, but why didn't he have so many daughters? Even though he didn't have many daughters, but they were very beautiful. He had 2 times 7 sons, 14 sons, and 3 daughters. Those were their names. Yemima Shaisudaim Liyaim. The woman Yemima was because she was similar to the day. She was beautiful like the day. Katzia Shaya Reicha Noidif Katzia. The second one's name was Katzia because her scent was like that of the scent of a Katzia, which is a aromatic herb. Karen Hopach, Amid Beir of Shila, Shadaim Karna de Keresh, that she was similar to the Karen of the horn of a Keresh. They laughed at him in Marava. Karna de Keresh Lakusi. The horn of a Keresh is black and ugly. El Amr of Chizla Kakurkuma de Rishka, Bemina. Like the kurkuma, which is the saffron trade was the most treasured spice in the east. That was the most treasured spice. When I'm going to give you puch, and puch is a like we called it karen hapuch, and puch is a mashmoyis of perfume or cosmetics. Rav Shimon Rebbe is Yaldula Barsa. Rav Shimon Rebbe had a daughter. Have a kacholish daita. He was upset. Amalei avua Rabbi Bala it's a good thing you're causing that you're going to have descendants. Your father is trying to make you feel good, but it's not really any substitute. Titania, the world can't exist without both males and females. But still, it's better for one who has sons. But it's bad when a person has nekevis because he's always worried about what's going to happen to his nekevis. They're always vulnerable. The world can't exist. I mean, I don't know why it can't, but without perfume and without tanners. But the person is fortunate if he's a perfumer, he smells good. And it's a tragedy for someone who's a tanner because it smells very bad. Hashem, and we see it's machlokes tanoim. Hashem berech Avram bakol, my bakol. What does it mean he was blessed bakol? It means that he didn't have a daughter. That was he didn't have to worry about a daughter. Yehuda says the other way around. The bracha was that he did have a daughter. Like we said, and this is the same machlokes. Is it a good thing or a bad thing to have a daughter? Others say, what was Avram Berech? Hashem Berech Avram Bakol. He had a daughter, Bakol Shema. Her name was Bakol. Rashi brings this in Chumash. And the different pshatim in what Avram Berech is Avram Bakol. It's the Ningus Hois of Libay Shel Avram Avinu. Avram was very adept at understanding the astrological signs. Everyone would come to ask him to interpret their future. So this was his bracha bakol. Shimon Yechoy Omer, Evan Toiva Hoysa Tluya B'Tzavari Shel Avram Avinu. Avram had a jewel on his shoulder. Whoever saw it, anyone who was sick, would see that stone, it would heal it. Avram Avinu min Olam. When Avram was nifter, Talakadosh Baruch Hu b'Gilgal Cham, the Rebbe placed it in the sun, and we've seen other Gemaras that say that the sun provides a refuah. Amar Abaye Hainu Amar Imshi. Idli Yuma, Idli Katsira. When the day goes away, what does it mean? Idli Yuma, Idli Katsira. Yeah, the Idli Katsira. Katsira means to be kaitzer, to be sick. So when the sun goes out, the sun comes out in the morning, it takes away the sickness. The bakal that Avram got was that Esav did not go off the derech while he was alive. Davar Akash also Yishmael tshuva b'yamav. Yishmael did tshuva while he was alive. Shaloi marad Esav b'yamav. Where do we know that Esav did not go off the derech while Avram was alive? He came from what he was doing, from the sada, from the field, and he was tired. Nifter Avram. That was the day that Avram was nifter. Avram Avinu. Yaakov Avinu tafshil shel adasim lanachem es Yitzchak. Yaakov made the tafshil adasim to be Menachem Yitzchak, and that was when Esav sold the bechayra. That's when he started to go off the derech. Amri b'Rava Mishmei the Rabbi Bar Mary Ma adasha zu. Why did he make adasha? Ein la peh. Just like since it doesn't have an opening, af evel ein la peh. So too, someone who's in Avelis doesn't have anything to say. Davar achama adosha megalgelas, just like an adosha is round. Av avelus megalgelas umachzeres. Just so to avelus, we have to understand this is the way the Rebbe Shalom made the world, that it comes and goes. Al boya olam, that the Rebbe Shalom made that everyone in this world, he comes into this world and he leaves this world. My beinayu, what's the difference between the two pshatim? Is it because it doesn't have a pair or because it's round? It can be whether you can use an egg to be menachem someone. An egg doesn't have a pair, doesn't have an opening, but so therefore it's good for that sense, but it's not round. It's not sufficiently round, I guess, to demonstrate the circularity of the world. Esav, as soon as he went off the derech, he did 5 averes. Baal Naira Marasa, he was born in Naira Marasa, Vaharagas and Nefesh, he killed someone. The Kafar Be'ikr, he was Macharef. The Kafar B'Tchias HaMesim, he denied Tchias HaMesim. The Shat Es HaB'Chayra, and he was debased the B'Chayra. Baal Naira Marasa, D'Chsev, Hacha Vayivas, Esav Esab, Vayava Esav Min HaSada, he came from the Sada, B'Ksev Hasam, Ki B'Sada Matzasa, Matzah. Well, Lagabe Nairasa, the Torah says he found her in the field. Haragas in Esuf Hacha Ayif. It says Lashon Ayif. Siv Hasam Ayna Li Eifa Nafshi Lahargim. Lagabe what is this pasuk? Chaf. Ki Chayil Chayil Shamati Tzara Kamaria Kol Batzian Shavas Tifresh Kapea Ayna Li Ki Afra Ayna Nahargim in Yirmiyah. He's talking about the killers who go after him. And it's also used lashon of Eifa. The kafa be'ikak sivhacha lama zali. He said legabi the b'chayr lama lezi b'chayr ksivhasam zek keli mi'amveyu. The Rebbe Shalom is referred to as zek keli. So he denied zeh. So that means in the Rebbe Shalom the kafa b'tchias hamez nufsav hini anochi haylech lamas. He said, I'm going to die, and there's nothing else after that. The shat as a b'chayr duchsev vayivez esav es b'chayr. And how do you know that Yishmael did Shuva in the days of Avram? He was dozing off. Any where do we know that when you use the lashon gevia, it's talking about a misa of a tzaddik? Is it true? Yes, it's true. Hadar Mabel, the diary we say Gavia legabi the Dara Mabel. And non Gavia is Vasifa coming. We don't mean just Gavia. It has to be a juxtaposition of the word Gavia together with Asifa of gathering. It says by Yishmael Gavia Vasifa, and he was a Chamor Garam. He was a not Chamor Garam, a Para Adam. Adahachi Yitarbu Rava. At that time, Rava jumped up. Amalahu. It says that Yitzchak and Yishmael buried him. So you see that Yishmael said that Yitzchak can go ahead of him. So Vaistais he was nachas to Yitzchak. That means he did tshuva. Maybe that which it said that Yitzchak first is not because Yishmael deferred to him, but just because he was more of a chacham. So tomorrow, Elameata v'yikvoy Esav Yaakov benoi my time l'chashavu derech chachmasin. Why over there? Don't say Yaakov first. Certainly Yaakov was a bigger chacham than Esav. Amal t'ka'amet adibura adabra umid adabra shma min tshuva ben biyamav. It must be that Yishmael was nachas. He deferred to Yitzchak, and therefore we see that he did tshuva. Okay, we're going to stop over here, and we'll continue tomorrow with more pshatim of what is Avram Berach, Hashem Berach as Avram Bakal. Shkoch, thank you for your patience. I'm glad I warned you beforehand, so it didn't I remember when I was a kid.
Good. I have time. I mean, I have actually another